The Forgotten Alley. The small coastal town of Porto das Sombras was a place where time seemed to stand still. Its narrow cobblestone streets wound like veins through the heart of the town, lined with colorful houses whose shutters fluttered in the salty breeze. The air was alive with the sounds of seagulls, the chatter of market vendors, and the distant crash of waves against the shore. But hidden among the bustling squares and lively streets was a forgotten alley, a place where shadows lingered longer than they should and the air felt heavier, as if it carried secrets. It was here that Lara, a young woman with an insatiable curiosity, found herself one late afternoon. She had always been drawn to the unknown, to the stories whispered in the corners of the town. Today, her curiosity led her to an old, weathered sign that read, "Almeida's Curiosities." The shop was tucked away at the end of the alley, its windows clouded with dust and its door slightly ajar, as if inviting her in. Lara hesitated for a moment, her hand hovering over the door. Something about the shop felt different. The air around it was still, and the sounds of the town seemed to fade away as she stepped inside. The interior was dimly lit, with shelves crammed full of strange artifacts, old clocks, dusty books, and trinkets that seemed to hum with a faint energy. But what caught her, it was the collection of masks displayed on a central pedestal. The masks were unlike anything she had ever seen. Each one was unique, carved with intricate designs that seemed to shift and change under the flickering light of a single bulb. Some were painted in vibrant colors, while others were stark and monochrome. Their expressions ranged from serene to menacing, and their eyes seemed to follow her as she moved closer. A voice broke the silence, deep and gravelly. "Mr. Almeida," sternly, "you shouldn't be here, young lady." Lara turned to see an elderly man emerging from the shadows. His face was lined with age, but his eyes were sharp and piercing. He wore a long, dark coat, and his hands were clasped behind his back. Lara, startled, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to intrude. I've never seen this shop before." Mr. Almeida, grimly, "That's because it's not meant to be found by just anyone. These masks, they're not for the curious." Lara, defiantly, "Why not? What's so special about them?" Mr. Almeida, leaning closer, "They hold power. Power that can consume you. Leave them be." But Lara's curiosity was piqued. As Mr. Almeida turned his back to adjust a shelf, she reached out and touched one of the masks. It was cold to the touch, and the moment her fingers brushed its surface, the room began to spin. The walls blurred, the floor dissolved, and Lara was pulled into a swirling vortex of light and shadow. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer in the shop. She stood in a surreal world, where the sky was a swirling mix of colors and the ground seemed to pulse beneath her feet. The masks floated around her, their eyes glowing as they whispered her name. The world of masks. Lara found herself in a world that defied logic. The sky above was a swirling canvas of colors. Deep purples, fiery oranges, and electric blues, shifting and blending like paint on a palette. The ground beneath her feet was soft and spongy, pulsing faintly as if it were alive. Strange, glowing plants dotted the landscape, their leaves curling and uncurling as if breathing. The air was thick with a sweet, almost cloying scent, and the faint sound of whispers echoed all around her. The masks she had seen in Mr. Almeida's shop floated in the air around her, their expressions shifting from joy to anger to sorrow. Each mask seemed to radiate a different emotion, and Lara could feel their influence tugging at her own feelings. One moment, she felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The next, a burst of inexplicable joy. It was as if the masks were alive, feeding on her emotions. A figure approached her, a young man wearing a mask of calm serenity. His movements were graceful, almost ethereal, and his mask glowed with a soft, golden light. He stopped a few feet away from her, his head tilted slightly as if studying her. "Young man, softly, you shouldn't be here. This is the realm of masks, where emotions rule." Lara, confused, "Who are you? How do I get back?" Young man, removing his mask to reveal a kind face. "I'm Elias. I was trapped here just like you. To leave, you must find a mask of balance. But beware, the shadow entity will stop you." Lara, frowning, "Shadow entity? What are you talking about?" Elias, grimly, "It's a being that feeds on chaos. It stole the mask of balance to control both worlds. If you want to go home, you'll have to face it." Lara's heart raced as she processed his words. She looked around at the floating masks, their glowing eyes watching her intently. One mask, with a twisted, angry expression, floated closer, its presence making her chest tighten with unease. Lara, stepping back, "What are these masks? Why do they feel alive?" Elias, sighing, "Each mask represents an aspect of the soul: fear, anger, joy, sorrow, and love. They were created to maintain balance, but the shadow entity corrupted them. Now they feed on emotions, twisting them into something dark." Lara, determined, "Then we have to fix this. How we find a mask of balance?" Elias, nodding, "We'll need to collect the other masks first. Each one will give you the strength to face the shadow entity. But it won't be easy. The masks will test you, and the shadow entity will do everything in its power to stop us." As they began their journey, the sky darkened, and a chilling laugh echoed through the air. The ground trembled, and the whispers grew louder, more insistent. Lara glanced over her shoulder and saw a shadowy figure watching them from a distance. Its eyes glowed red, and its form shifted and writhed like smoke. "Elias, urgently, we need to move. Now." They ran, the shadowy figure close behind. The landscape shifted around them, the vibrant colors fading into a dark, twisted forest. The trees whispered warnings, and the air grew colder with every step. Lara knew they were being hunted, and the shadow entity was just getting started. The mask of fear. The dark forest loomed ahead, its twisted trees stretching toward the swirling sky like skeletal fingers. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decay, and the faint sound of whispers echoed through the shadows. Lara and Elias moved cautiously, their footsteps muffled by the soft, moss-covered ground. The further they ventured, the more the forest seemed to close in around them, the trees whispering warnings in a language Lara couldn't understand. Elias held up a hand, signaling for Lara to stop. His mask, now back on his face, glowed faintly, casting a golden light that barely penetrated the darkness. Elias, whispering, "This is the domain of the mask of fear. It will try to break you. Stay close and don't let it control you. Lara nodded, her heart pounding. She could feel the weight of the forest pressing down on her, the whispers growing louder, more insistent. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, a masked figure with a grotesque, twisted expression. Its eyes glowed a sickly green, and its movements were jerky, unnatural. Masked figure, hissing, "You don't belong here. Leave, or face your worst nightmares." Lara, stepping forward, her voice trembling, "I'm not afraid of you." The figure lunged at her, its claws extended. Lara stumbled back, but Elias stepped in, his golden mask flaring brightly. The figure recoiled, hissing in pain. Elias, urgently, "Lara, you have to face it. The mask of fear feeds on your fear. If you show it you're not afraid, it will lose its power." Lara took a deep breath, forcing herself to stand tall. She looked directly into the figure's glowing eyes, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. "Lara, firmly, you don't control me." The figure hesitated, its form flickering. Lara reached out and grabbed the mask, pulling it free. The figure let out a piercing scream as it dissolved into smoke, leaving only the mask in Lara's hands. Elias, smiling, "You did it. The mask of fear is yours." Lara, examining the mask, "It feels cold, like it's still alive." Elias, nodding, "It is. Each mask holds a piece of the soul it represents. Use it wisely." As they continued through the forest, the atmosphere began to shift. The trees seemed less menacing, the whispers quieter. But the relief was short-lived. The ground trembled, and a voice boomed through the air. "You cannot escape me." The shadow entity's laughter echoed around them, and the forest seemed to come alive, the trees twisting and writhing as if trying to trap them. Lara clutched the mask of fear tightly, knowing their journey was far from over. The mask of anger. The forest gave way to a fiery wasteland, where the ground was cracked and dry, and rivers of molten lava snaked through the landscape. The air was thick with heat and the acrid smell of sulfur. Jagged rocks jutted out from the ground like broken teeth, and the sky above was a deep, angry red. In the distance, a massive volcano loomed, its peak spewing ash and smoke into the air. Lara wiped the sweat from her brow, her grip tightening on the mask of fear. Elias walked beside her, his golden mask glowing faintly, providing a small circle of light in the oppressive darkness. As they ventured further into the wasteland, the ground began to tremble. A figure emerged from the haze, its form towering and menacing. It wore a mask of pure rage, its eyes burning like embers and its mouth twisted into a snarl. Masked figure, roaring, "You dare challenge me? I am anger, and I will destroy you." Lara, stepping forward, her voice steady, "I won't let you control me." The figure lunged at her, its fists wreathed in flames. Lara dodged, but the heat seared her skin. She could feel the anger radiating from the figure, threatening to overwhelm her. Elias, shouting, "Use the mask of fear, Lara. It can weaken it." Action. Lara held up the mask of fear, its green glow intensifying. The figure hesitated, its flames flickering. For a moment, its rage seemed to waver, replaced by a flicker of doubt. "Lara, firmly, you're not as strong as you think." The figure roared, its flames reigniting, But Lara didn't back down. She focused on the mask of fear, channeling its power. The figure's flames dimmed, and its movement slowed. Elias, urgently, now Lara, take the mask. Action. Lara lunged forward, grabbing the mask of anger. The figure let out a deafening scream as its form dissolved into smoke, leaving only the mask in Lara's hands. Dialogue. Elias, panting two down. But the next masks will be harder. Lara, examining the mask of anger. It feels hot, like it's burning from the inside. Elias, nodding. Anger is a powerful emotion. Be careful how you use it. As they moved on, the sky darkened and the ground trembled. The shadow entity's laughter echoed through the wasteland, its voice filled with malice. The volcano in the distance erupted, sending a plume of ash and fire into the sky. The shadow entity's voice boomed. You cannot escape me. The mask of joy. The fiery wasteland faded into a vibrant, colorful meadow, where the air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers and the sound of laughter. The sky above was a brilliant blue, dotted with fluffy white clouds, and the ground was covered in soft green grass. Butterflies flitted through the air, and the trees were heavy with ripe, golden fruit. It was a place of pure joy and happiness, but something about it felt off. Lara and Elias stepped into the meadow, their senses overwhelmed by the sudden shift in atmosphere. The mask of anger in Lara's hand felt out of place here, its heat clashing with the cool, soothing energy of the meadow. A figure appeared in the distance, dancing through the flowers with graceful, fluid movements. It wore a mask of pure joy, its expression one of unbridled happiness. The mask glowed with a soft, golden light, and its laughter was infectious. Dialogue. Masked figure, giggling, why so serious? Join the fun. Lara, frowning, this isn't real joy. It's a trap. The figure danced closer, its movements mesmerizing. Lara felt a wave of happiness wash over her, but she fought to keep her focus. Elias, urgently, don't let it control you, Lara. This joy is false. It's meant to distract you. The figure reached out, its fingers brushing against Lara's arm. She felt a surge of euphoria, but it was quickly followed by a sense of unease. The happiness was overwhelming, almost suffocating. Lara, gritting her teeth, I won't let you control me. She held up the mask of anger, its red glow intensifying. The figure hesitated, its laughter faltering. Dialogue. Masked figure, pouting, why fight it? Just let go and be happy. Lara, firmly, real joy doesn't need to force itself on anyone. The figure's mask began to crack, its golden light dimming. Lara reached out and grabbed the mask, pulling it free. The figure dissolved into a shower of golden sparks, leaving only the mask of joy in Lara's hands. Dialogue. Elias, smiling, you did it. The mask of joy is yours. Lara, examining the mask, it feels warm, like sunlight. Elias, nodding, joy is a powerful emotion. Use it wisely. As they moved on, the meadow began to fade, the vibrant colors replaced by a dull, gray landscape. The air grew colder, and the laughter was replaced by the sound of distant sobs. The ground trembled, and the shadow entity's voice echoed through the air. You cannot escape me. The mask of sorrow. The vibrant meadow faded into a desolate wasteland, where the sky was a dull, lifeless gray, and the ground was cracked and barren. The air was heavy with the scent of rain, though no clouds were visible. In the distance, a single, leafless tree stood, its branches twisted and gnarled like the fingers of a withered hand. Beneath the tree sat a figure, its shoulders hunched and its head bowed. The figure wore a mask of pure sorrow, its expression one of deep, unending grief. Lara and Elias approached cautiously, the mask of joy still glowing faintly in Lara's hand. The air around them was thick with a sense of despair, and the faint sound of sobbing echoed through the wasteland. The figure looked up as they approached, its mask glistening with what looked like tears. Its voice was soft, barely above a whisper. Masked figure, weeping, leave me alone. There's no hope. There's no point. Lara, softly, there's always hope. Let me help you. The figure shook its head, its sobs growing louder. Lara could feel the weight of its sorrow pressing down on her, threatening to overwhelm her. Elias, whispering, "This is the mask of sorrow. It's the heaviest of all the masks. You'll need to be strong, Lara." Lara, kneeling beside the figure. "I know it hurts, but you don't have to carry this alone." Masked figure, voice breaking, "You don't understand. The pain, it's too much." Lara, gently, "I do understand, and I'm here to help you." Action. Lara reached out, her fingers brushing against the mask of sorrow. The figure flinched but didn't pull away. Slowly, Lara lifted the mask from the figure's face. The moment the mask was free, the figure dissolved into a soft, silver mist, leaving only the mask in Lara's hands. "Elias, softly, you did it. The mask of sorrow is yours." Lara, examining the mask, it feels heavy, like it's carrying the weight of the world. Elias, nodding, sorrow is a powerful emotion, but it's also a part of life. Use it wisely. Action. As they moved on, the wasteland began to shift, the gray sky giving way to a deep, ominous black. The air grew colder, and the sound of sobbing was replaced by a low, guttural growl. The ground trembled, and the shadow entity's voice echoed through the air. "You cannot escape me." The final confrontation. Lara and Elias faced the shadow entity in a stormy, chaotic landscape. The entity's eyes glowed with malice as it summoned the power of the stolen mask of balance. Shadow entity, roaring, "You cannot defeat me." Lara, holding the four masks, "I don't need to defeat you. I just need to restore balance." She combined the masks, creating a burst of light that weakened the entity. With Elias's help, she reclaimed the mask of balance. The realm began to collapse, and Lara knew it was time to go home. The return. Lara opened her eyes to find herself back in Almeida's Curiosities, the dim light of the shop casting long shadows across the cluttered shelves. The air was still, and the faint scent of aged wood and old parchment filled her nostrils. She was lying on the floor, the four masks scattered around her, their glow now faint and fading. Mr. Almeida stood over her, his expression a mix of relief and pride. His eyes, though sharp, held a warmth that hadn't been there before. Lara sat up slowly, her body aching but her spirit lighter than it had been in days. She looked around, half expecting to see Elias, but he was nowhere to be found. Dialogue. Mr. Almeida, softly, "You did it, Lara. You restored the balance." Lara, confused, "Where's Elias? Is he?" Mr. Almeida, smiling, "He's where he belongs now. His role was to guide you, and he did that well." Lara picked up the masks, their surfaces cool to the touch. She placed them gently on the pedestal where they had once been displayed. The shop felt different now, less oppressive, more peaceful. Dialogue. Lara, softly, "What happens now?" Mr. Almeida, gently, "Now you live. You've faced your fears, your anger, your sorrow, and even your joy. You've learned the importance of balance. That's a lesson few ever truly understand." As Lara turned to leave, she noticed a small, intricately carved mask in her pocket. It glowed faintly, a reminder of her journey. She smiled, knowing that the masks and their secrets would always be a part of her. The shop's door creaked shut behind her, and the alley seemed to fade into the shadows once more. But Lara knew that the masks and their secrets would always be a part of her. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this thrilling journey with Lara and the magical masks, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the next adventures. Every like and subscription helps bring more amazing stories like this one. Loudspeaker, share this video with your friends who love stories full of mystery, fantasy, and emotion. Let's spread the magic together. And guess what? This is just the beginning. There's so much more coming. Captivating stories, magical worlds, and unforgettable characters. So, stay tuned because the next adventure might be even more surprising. Drop a comment below and let me know what your favorite part of the story was or which mask you'd wear if you were in Lara's shoes. I love hearing from you. Until the next video, remember, balance lies within each of us. See you soon.